welcome to our fourth episode of ThinkCast. And I'm Karri Bedor with Brandcast Media. And I have been looking forward to today specifically for probably 2 months because I actually planned this out and reached out to people that I wanted to have conversations with. And this girl over here agreed to jump on and share her story with me and with all of you. And I couldn't be more excited because she has a fabulous story to tell. And she is one of my dear friends. And we've literally been friends for like 35 years-ish. Like that's kind of crazy when you say it out
It is crazy.
like we're not that old though, are
I
we?
know.
I'm
I'm like,
like,
wait, are we old enough to be friends for that long? We are.
I know it's so it's so crazy. So Alicia Pizzo has joined us today. And like what would your title be? Like fashion extraordinaire? Like fashionista? Like I know what I called you in high school. Do you remember my nickname for you? It was AP Slick.
And KP Smooth and AP Slick. That's right. We had DJ names. We didn't have much of a DJ game, but
No, I think we were like trying to make like either DJ or like break into the women rap, world. And like we took totally different directions though.
well, also remember that was Fly Girl. That was Girl era,
Oh yeah.
in Living Color times.
Oh,
And we definitely were living
we
that
were
moment.
we were I think I believe that one of the fashion things that we brought to our high school was socks and Birkenstocks. And like
Yeah.
I literally have Birkenstocks on right now. Like I never fully retired the Birkenstock girl.
Oh, I don't think there's any reason to. I mean, we're here for trend talk,
Yeah.
they're a forever shoe in my mind.
I agree. I Speaking of that, like I watch TikTok and there's just such the random stuff that will like come through my TikTok, and there's like there's kind of like this grunge era that feels like it's coming back, and they're showing these Mary Jane Doc Martens, and I remember I wanted a pair of these shoes so bad, and they were like $100 back in the day, and I was like, oh, I could actually buy these now, and I'm like, but do I really want to spend $140 on a pair of Doc Marten shoes that probably aren't going to have good arch support?
Oh, they have great arch support. They are so well made. They last a lifetime.
I know,
Honestly, they're great. They're fabulously made. I will say that about Docs.
I know. I mean, and
So I saw something about this kind of new wave grunge that you're talking about, and it was called the something socialite, like when the socialite kind of falls from grace.
yes,
Like there was a whole story about it, and it was all of the story was so well written. It was like, imagine like you woke up and you have your bag from last night and you're in your crappy t-shirt, but you have your Louis Vuitton coat over the top, and your hair is a mess. The
yeah,
headband's a cry for help,
yeah.
it's like the disgraced socialite. That's what it
Oh,
was.
disgraceful. I love that.
Yeah.
But I was like kind of reading up on trends because like I try like in my business, I try to like know where the trends are going, or like, even when I'm designing brands and stuff, it's like, okay, well, we got some classic, pieces that we need to do, but for people that want like different aesthetics and stuff, I like to try to stay on top of it. And the grunge, like there was one that was called like glamorous grunge, and it was
Mhm.
like, take your old concert t-shirt and throw your and throw your 90s flannel over the top, but you can wear your pearls and grab your Louis Vuitton bag. So it was kind of funny looking at that. And then I remember this was a while back. We had a conversation once, and you told me that like the granny style was coming in, and I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, who the who wants to look like a grandma? And I was like, you're crazy. And holy crap, it's like everywhere. Like there's even a term for it, like the grand millennial. I'm like, oh, like she knew the trend before the trend was actually a trend.
I
And
was probably trying to make that one happen because my friends literally called me grandma for years because I was like, come over on Sunday, I'll cook, like I've been trying to push that one through for years.
like these are my vintage, my vintage Pyrex dishes, which is like such a thing. I
Oh
didn't
my gosh,
it's
those
insane.
sell for so much online. It's insane. They're like a collector item.
I know I saw this lady that had a Pyrex wall. Like she had a special wall built in her house of all of her vintage Pyrex dishes. And she's like, I have the most expensive wall in my neighborhood. And I was like, oh, that stuff.
Oh, congrats. We should just fill up a trailer and take it out to the Hamptons and like spend the summer there with our Pyrex money. Like,
Like, oh, like what kind of trade are you in? Vintage Pyrex dishes?
yeah, don't tell anyone what's in the trailer. We'll get robbed.
Right? Like, oh my gosh. All right, so let's take a little bit of a step back. And, there's like, I know your daughter is, growing up. My kids are kind of like on their way, but of like they're young adults that still act like children most days. So that's
Aren't
that's
we all?
yeah, hey, the apple didn't fall far from the tree. But there's this moment when you are young and you're growing up and you start thinking about like, what do I want to be when I grow up? And you've always been that, you know, person that knew like trends and designs and fashion. And I believe that because you started off in college going to school for what, kinesiology, was that right?
Oh, there was a Canadian. I was like that kid that tried all the things. I was like, I'm ceramics this week. But no, so growing up, yeah, that's very true. My mom and was such a creative. I always jokingly call her Martha Stewart on crack, which I don't know why I say it that way, but just she was off in her own world all the time, always creating. She designed the houses I grew up in. She sewed our clothes. I mean, she was so to me, kind of designing and making things just that was what you did. It
Yeah.
wasn't like being a fashion designer would have been like me saying, "Oh, I want to be a ballerina or an astronaut." We grew up in such a kind of small, remote town that I was like, and my dad's side is from the East Coast, and I always thought, "Oh, I don't really want to move to New York or LA, just having spent time there." So I did go to college for kinesiology and then communication disorders. And my focus was on working with kids with autism when I graduated. And then I would come home and sew and design at night. And I did worked with the kids for a little bit and then quickly discovered that that was not a good fit for me and that if I kept doing that job that I would probably end up with a home full of children. Um, and it was
Want to
just
take them all?
I say that again. I'm
Because you
sorry.
want to take them all, like
Yes.
come be mine.
Yes. It was just I'm just I was getting so attached and it was emotionally not a healthy space for me to be in. I just could not at that time in my life. I don't know, maybe today would be different, but at that age, I was just too much of an open, heart. And it was really hard for me to accept like situations where maybe the parents would make a decision I didn't agree with, or,
Yeah,
when the kids would be, um, you know, really, they had a lot of health problems, things like that. It was just really challenging for me.
sure.
Um, my roommates would give me a wide berth when I got home from work. Let's put it that way, So
So you're sitting in this
yeah.
and you're feeling like, gosh, I love how you said your open heart. And I think that's a beautiful way to kind of explain who you are, genuinely. But you're sitting there and something inside of you is saying, like, this isn't it. And so, like, you. identified at some point to lean into like what comes natural and where your passion was. And people say that all the time, like if you work in your passion, you'll never work a day in your life, right? But
Yeah.
so
That's a crazy saying, by the way.
it is. It's not like you actually do work, right?
You actually work, you grind.
You grind. But grinding and having fun and like loving the work that you do is so different than, being a slave to something that's like sucking the soul out of you, right?
That's
So
true. It's so
there
true.
there's some like there's pebbles of truth in there. So
Yeah.
so what happened next? So you're sitting and you're like, no, I'm getting too attached.
So
This is
then I go, what am I gonna do? I just got this degree and I love all these children, but this is not a long-term solution for me. So I went to work doing insurance because my dad did insurance and there was an opening at American Express at the time. That's what it was, it's Ameriprise now. Well, I figured out next steps and I took one fashion class during that time just because I was like, maybe I could do this and I need to do something to see if the creative world is for me. And I loved it. It was in Green Bay. And then there was an opening in Minneapolis at American Express. And I thought, oh, I'm going to transfer there and go to the tech school for design and take a couple classes, right? So I transferred to Minneapolis and started working at Ameriprise there, just doing a job to support going to school. And I also started working at a jazz club and go, I took some design classes, more like because I didn't have a lot of computer background at the time. Um, and working at the jazz club, I was making way more than I was at my day job. Prince's house, our Prince's touring band was our house band.
oh cool.
And it was awesome. You guys, I just can't even say enough about that job. And my boss there actually said, if you want to go back to school full time for design, you can quit your day job and work in my office. And that was one of the first steps in that road that freed me from working two jobs and trying to go to school. That gave me a moment where I could have the space to really focus on going back and pursuing that. And so I think I took another semester or something. And then we're fast forwarding a little. That jazz club closed down, and I went to work at another one. And I met a woman at a Christmas party, weirdly, who worked at Target. And she said, I think you'd be a really good fit for us. I I'd like to help you get your resume together. And she helped me get a job there. And I was like low girl on the totem pole, opening
But does this
boxes,
Okay, so is this like a Target store or is it Target corporate? Because
Target corporate.
Target corporate is based out of Minneapolis.
Yeah, at out of Minneapolis. Sorry, I'm jumping around, so
No, no, no.
keep me grounded here. But
I'm going.
these are the little kismet moments, right? That magic that finds us. So I was still like doing school and working in the jazz club circuit. Apparently, that was my niche. But there, I was working a Christmas party for Target headquarters employees when I met this random angel, and she said, "I think that you'd be a really good fit." So I wanted to get into work there because I wanted to. It was when they were just starting their own internal brands, and they didn't have much of a design team yet. And I thought, well, I could learn how to design for them. And she said, I don't think you'll get hired as a designer because you don't have a design background, but let's get you design adjacent. Like we need people to like open boxes of samples. We need blah, 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 so it's like an entry level job, design adjacent. And let me tell you how many people told me there that you'll never be able to switch into the design department. And I thought to myself, oh, I love to hear that. I love the word no. So I kept working. and helping the design department. I learned as much as I could. I asked as many questions as I could. My first portfolio was all hand drawn, which to think now is crazy. And there was a few people that took me under their wing that realized I was much more of a creative than a spread. No, you do not want me doing the spreadsheets. That is not good for anybody. And I became their first assistant designer. They hired me, and I had this one of the hiring managers was this wild woman from New York. Everybody loved her. She was just off the wall, and she said, I'm going to give you a shot because I know something. You can teach the computer. You can teach the computer stuff. You'll learn how to do the systems, but you can't teach taste level. And you got a kid. You got taste level and you got talent. I'm surprised she didn't light a cigarette after she said it to me. And I walked out of her office naturally crying, and I couldn't believe it. And I was just so excited to start that job. And it was so I had to take a pay cut from waitressing, but it was really worth it. And I worked for them for like 11 years.
Wow.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
and you were like, because specifically, like, what were you designing when you were there, like at Target?
When I first started, my first job was to do newborn baby clothes.
Oh.
And I'd like to apologize to anyone that bought the first round because I put on the tiniest, little, cutest buttons and little teeny bows and all these things because I didn't have babies yet.
So you learned.
Later, when you have kids, you're like, who made this? It
Yeah.
was me back in the day, some 20-some-year-old girl who was like, oh, you know what would be cute? 15 little tiny buttons, you know? Oh my goodness.
Oh my God, that is so funny. But
And then I went
you
on to
evolved though,
do
right?
that. Say again.
I'm sorry, you definitely evolved from newborn wear, right?
I did, yeah. Well, then we started the mix and match like newborn stuff, which was a huge program. So then I had the opportunity to move into swim. Like it was like a promotion, but not really because it was a seasonal business at that time. There was one rack on the floor. And if you did swim, you also did jackets and outerwear. And so I really wanted to work for the person that did it. She was incredible, really great manager, and it was time for me to kind of move departments. So the day that I was supposed to go work for her, she went out on maternity leave, and it was just her and I with this kind of smaller business. And she's like, okay, you'll be fine. And I was like, okay, I was like an assistant at the time. And so I took over the swim and the cover-ups and the jackets, and it was just me. And at that time, they were also moving the design business into another building. So then it was just me by myself on one floor doing all these departments. And I was like, okay, I guess I got this. And I had great buyers. I had, awesome vendors. So I had amazing technical designers. There was a really good team in place all around me. So when I say it was just me, I mean just from a design perspective. And no one was paying a whole lot of attention to it because it was a seasonal business. And so I just kind of figured it out and it grew. I mean, now Target Swim is a monster and I just kind of worked off on my own in the dark and we grew that business so much that it got split up into its own departments. I think by the time that I left that role, I want to say it was a quarter of their floor pad.
Wow.
And it was another one of those no moments where it's just a seasonal business. It'll
Sure.
never be that big of a deal. And I was like, oh, we'll see.
Like,
Like
watch me.
let's let's push this to year round. And I will also say that was one of the greatest jobs to have at that age and living in Minnesota because swim travel for anyone who's considering a design, a clothing design, if you live in a cold place, all the travel, they would be like, okay, well, we need you to go to Hawaii. And I was like, I'm sorry, come again. Um, okay, well, you need to go to Australia and do swim research. And I was like, okay. it's like dead February. And
You're like,
so
oh,
I would,
okay.
always going to all these places. And then they wanted me to design at one point. We did like surf and rash guard stuff. And I was like, well, you guys, I'm from Wisconsin. I have never really surfed. Should I take lessons? And they're like, yeah, yeah, why don't you take lessons while you're there? I was like, I'm just gonna back out of your office before you tell me no, like
Well, you want to send me to Hawaii to do surf lessons, so I understand rash guard wear. But it's all part of your this was all part of your journey and part of your process that
Mhm.
you're going through. And it's what's so funny is I literally just cleaned out my swimwear drawer, and I have like a bunch of stuff that either doesn't fit me or is just like I'm not gonna use anymore. And I'm like piling it up, and I'm like I'm just gonna throw this on Facebook Marketplace and be like $20 and it's all yours. But because a lot of people are thinking, they're either going on
Yeah.
vacation or they're thinking about vacation. So like swimwear has kind of evolved because travel's evolved so much, and
Hmm.
especially, you're seeing all that. But then there definitely has been evolution just in like the SPF technology, and that's kind of where the next part of your story goes, isn't it? In
Yeah.
what took
Hmm.
you what catapulted you to leave Target?
Oh, Tarjay.
Is Target,
So,
is that a Target like employee thing, or does that annoy them? Target.
I think if it annoys you, you probably should take a step back, right? Deep
Yeah,
breath time.
yeah. There you go. There you go.
Yeah, you might be a little too invested. It's like the Target lady from SNL. Uh, um, so I wanted to say, God, Carrie, I feel like I'm doing all the talking, but I guess that's how these work, right?
Yeah.
Um, so I had my daughter, and I did love working at Target. I loved the challenge of being there, but I was working a lot, like I said, and I liked it, I think, because I had so much autonomy, that I didn't want to let go of
Yeah.
anything, because I will say I like working, um, uh, I had teams that I worked with, but I kind of got to do my thing. My process was so different than some of the other teams. And once the business got really big, then it had to sort of do a lot more of the integrated things, which was really hard being one person. And so then things got very difficult to manage as one person. And had a really difficult pregnancy. My daughter was in the NICU after she was born and had some issues. And I was headhunted for this company called Coolabar. And so we have the baby in the NICU. We've got, both of us had a rough time. And then my mother and my grandmother both had skin cancer also. They were both fine afterwards, but I talked to this smaller company and they really wanted to make sun protective clothing that people wanted to wear, because one of the issues with sun protective clothing is that because of the coverage situation, um, it doesn't oh basically one of the jokes that we were making during the interview was like, these poor people are not only dealing with cancer or some sort of immuno disorder, but now they have to go out dressed like beekeepers, like yeah. Now you've been diagnosed with this horrible disease, and here's your beekeeper outfit on, just
Right.
icing on the cake, right? So this cause was really close to my heart. I knew I wasn't going to be able to keep up my travel schedule and my schedule I was doing at Target, despite how much I loved it. And so it was really a moment, another one of those kismet moments where I got to go work for something that I felt passionate about. And additionally, I will tell you about the SPF thing, just because I am passionate about this. It is one of the only companies that uses fabric where the SPF protection is woven in. So when you see SPF protection on most things that are just like in the store, that only needs to pass 25 wash tests. So if it's not woven into the fabric, think about when you're wearing something in a pool with
Sure,
chlorine,
sure.
that
It's faded.
SPF is gone within, wearing it, I'd say 10, 15 times. And actually, white things that have SPF, once that is gone, they actually magnify the sun. So
Oh,
anything that's white that gets wet can make your sunburn worse. So that's my little PSA for today. But there are two companies that use SPF that's woven in. So if you do that research, Coolabar is one of them. So I felt even more strongly about it. I started attending dermatology conferences, learning how to make things that had sun protection that was built in, but could be sort of like covered. Like now I think the hand coverings are pretty standard in a lot of things, but we were putting them in rash guards just so they could flip down and go over your hands, putting things like in the necks that could be kind of rolled down and hidden so that someone could wear it indoors, but then sort of transformer it all out,
yeah,
um, redoing the printed patterns, updating all the different fits so that so that it felt like normal clothing, so to speak, whatever normal means to you. But that it was more wearable for someone who might not want to feel more other than they already were.
sure.
And we revamped the entire brand, and it was really successful. It was a really rewarding project to do. And I really did love working in a smaller space too after leaving Target. And I could bring my dogs to work.
Oh, fun.
My baby could come to work. It was a very small startup atmosphere. So that was really exciting.
And you were really good at it because it landed you in New York City, didn't it? Didn't you, isn't that how like the next part of your story it isn't it has a tie-in with, weren't you on a TV show or isn't
Oh, was I on a TV? Probably. I think I've forgotten more than what I've done, but I think between Target and Kula Bar, a lot of the same people that I worked with at Target and just in that industry, it's kind of a nichey little industry, swimwear specifically. Um, Worked with Victoria's Secret at the time, it's small world. So I think I was on their radar for a while. And it was kind of crazy. We had our house for sale, and the day that our house sold, they called and offered me the job there. It's just funny how things happen. It's just somebody's
That's
always been.
that's like a dream for so many people. Like what you've talked about so far is like, if you were a little girl and you're like, oh, I want to be a fashion designer, which by the way, the other like a couple weeks ago, I posted, you remember those fashion plates when we were little? Like you could put
Oh
like,
yeah, like
like
the
yeah,
stencil
yeah,
ones.
like the stencil ones. I saw a picture of it and I posted it and I was like, I used to play with these for hours.
They're so cool. I wish
I
I
guess
still had
they
those.
still make them, I guess.
Oh, really?
Maybe you can design your own line. There you go. Like that could be like a product that you could sell. But you're like a little kid and you're like, oh, I wanna be this, I want to be that. And then you're like, okay, I want to be a famous fashion designer and I want to, work for Victoria's Secret. And you did that. Like, what the heck? I mean, it's like that's crazy. You kind of just like people kept saying no and you're like, watch me, right?
Yeah.
Like, okay.
I know it's really motivating for me. The word no is like, I'm sorry, what now? Um,
That's a good mindset.
so it was crazy. I was sitting in my car. I remember I walked out to my car to leave work. Got the message that we were going to the house. The blah blah blah. I know, now I'm tongue tied. That we were going to close. The offer had been accepted and everything was good, and then got the call for the job offer like within probably half an hour of each other. And I went home and talked to my husband at the time and said, "So I have this offer. Are you interested in moving to New York? I mean, the house is sold. We aren't." we weren't planning that
And
move.
this is not like upstate New York. This is like
Manhattan. We
Manhattan.
moved
Yeah.
on, we got a unicorn of an apartment right on Central Park West. So I could walk to work in Columbus Circle. Our daughter was about 18 months at the time. So my daughter grew up in New York City, and you can definitely tell, I will say that. She's like 4 years old, just shouldering her way onto the subway and, sit down. I'm like, why don't you stand up and give the nice pregnant lady your seat? She's just a thug. Um, she'd like squeal up on her scooter to the corner. They're just heavy traffic. I could see my mom's heart just beating out of her chest. I'm like, Mom, don't worry, we do this every day. Just such a different childhood that she had from there to here. Can
Oh
you
yeah.
imagine?
Well,
Yeah,
that's like no, and it's those experiences that, she'll be talking about at some point, right? And what's gonna take her there. But what was Victoria's Secret like? I mean, that's who doesn't like what woman doesn't think of Victoria's Secret? And whether it's the lotions or the undergarments or even like the pink brand and everything in between, it's just such a it's people, women always think about that, and here you are,
yeah. I
you're
mean, who hasn't had some relationship with that brand, right? We all have.
right.
It's kind of like the only lingerie store that really existed that we all had access to, right? That wasn't Kohl's or something. It was
and,
kind of a
and it
big deal.
and it didn't feel dirty, you know what I mean? It
Right.
felt beautiful. It didn't feel like you're like, like, oh, this is like taboo going in there.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, something interesting that I never thought a lot about before working there, but there's never been a man in any of their print ads. It's only her. It's only Victoria. Not, and I don't mean Victoria in the sense of there's always, a different model, but it's only been aimed towards her. It's always been about her. And I think that's a big part of what is an appeal and was an appeal for me as
sure.
a designer because I like that it's telling a story for her, and it always makes her the center of the character in the story, and it always has been that. And I worked for Pink, so I was the head of swim and intimates, lingerie for Pink. Um, and I really did love that the college age story that they focused on, and having a really strong point of view around that made it an exciting brand to design for. And Target was really good at that too. Like having very strong brand perspective makes designing for a company and elevating its brand uh, of much, I don't want to say easy because that's the wrong word. It makes it a lot of fun, you
And you
know,
have clarity because you have clarity because you know who you're designing for.
exactly.
And I always preach that when I'm helping people like, build, certain brands or, even coming in and, looking at targeting. It's like, well, who's your client? Well, everybody is. I'm like, no, they're not. Like everybody, let's talk about
And that's where you're wrong.
yeah, and this is where we're going, and but you do once you do have a brand that's well defined, it creates clarity, and that clarity, allows you to know that you have, boundaries to work in, but
Right.
that's where you can have that creative space to say, okay, we're designing for this person, like what does that look and feel like?
Yeah.
And now you get to do that. And you were kind of doing this at the time that like the pink brand, because that wasn't always part of Victoria's Secret, but that was a hot brand at the time. Like
Well,
you were
it's
in it.
it's interesting because actually the streetwear, like the clothing was really doing well. But here's another no. When I went in, the I keep wanting to say intimates, but I feel like it's not such a word that everyone uses. So it's, but so the that side of the brand hadn't sort of taken off and had the same level of growth. And so when I took that role on, my challenge that I was given was how do we grow this part of the brand? Because really, Victoria's Secret was known to be what we just talked about. It was really about bras and underwear and to some degree swimwear, whereas Pink was really more about streetwear, right?
Mhm.
And so I, in Pink's intimates at that time, felt more like a little sister to Victoria's Secret. They were more pretty, um, more delicate, less, they felt less like the brand that you saw her wearing out.
Sure.
And so when I went into that brand, what I really focused on was what does the streetwear look like? And how do we make the intimates and underwear feel more like that? Because that's why she's coming to this experience.
Right.
And really reworked that part of the brand to make it feel more like streetwear. And it was a little bit of a scary endeavor because, like remember the elastic with the pink
Oh yeah. With the
insignia
logo.
on it,
Yeah.
all over it. So that's one of the things that we worked on when I was there, and that is not easy for suppliers to make. And I was presenting that in a meeting. This is an example of what it was like. And this is a big business. This is a multi-billion-dollar business at this point, and uh, I adored the design leader of that company. Denise Landman was her name, but she scared me a lot. She was very tough, quiet, tough, and she said exactly what was on her mind. I mean, when I presented to her, I would be like, you know, so nervous, knees knocking. And so I'm showing her this elastic idea, and they're all like, this is very different. Now it's, you think about it, big deal, right? But I've got all this pink all over everything, and they're like, what is this creation? And she looked at me, she goes, it better sell. And I was like, it will. I promise it will. I'm like, sweating through my clothes. I'm like the only one in front of this room full of all these high up execs, and I'm just like, oh, it will, fingers crossed behind my back.
Right.
But that was sort of like a turning point for that part of the brand. And so, and you're right, Pink was it was under Victoria's Secret, but while I was there, it became its own company. It
Yeah.
was separated from the brand, and it did become its own very strong part of the business. It was really exciting. It was an exciting time to be there. Um, my team grew a lot. I was able to hire a lot of people, bring on people that had been maybe freelancing for years and years, which was nice because New York is not an easy place to live,
Sure.
especially for artists, that might be freelancing and going between a lot of different jobs. So I think my team went from 5 to 25 people in under a year, which was wild. I'd never managed that many people before. So, uh, really trying to learn and adapt to that kind of environment really quickly. Because, like I was saying before, most of my jobs had been somewhat of me on an island working with outside teams. And now suddenly I'm okay, trying to
Got all
go
these
top.
people. I got all these people, and like how it well, and to be truthful, when you are a creative person and now you're being put into a leadership role, there's like skill sets that you have to know and understand. And so now not only are you driving a brand and having to tap into that creative energy, now you're responsible for making the team stay together too. And sometimes that can feel like an adult babysitter. I've had that experience in the past. And I've also had teams in the past where everything clicked and it was just like, let's go. Like this is fun. Let's do it. But when you start bringing people into your world that you're responsible for, it can definitely change the dynamic of things.
Absolutely. I think too that I wish that, hindsight's 2020, right? But some of the things that I learned about myself as a leader that I wish I would have understood sooner is that delegating or asking for help is not failure.
Not a week.
I feel like I took so many things on myself thinking that if I reach out or feel overwhelmed, that will look like failure, and that was a huge mistake. And I see other leaders do that now, where they're spreading themselves really thin on tasks that are time consuming or maybe not in their wheelhouse. That is something that I didn't do well, or didn't or got so overwhelmed that I couldn't pull my head up fast enough. And I think too, like you said, that it can feel like babysitting, especially going from being, certain personality types, even like I didn't become a designer because I love being in front of people talking or want to manage people. I liked drawing in a corner by myself. Now suddenly I'm, I think partially maybe one of the reasons I didn't go to school for art was that I didn't always like sharing my art or defending my decisions around it. And so all of those skill sets, finally I was comfortable talking in front of, a room full of 10 people. Now I'm on like a global stage where sometimes I'm being recorded or on camera, and I've got a camera coming around me. And I really struggled with some of those things. I'm not politically adept. I could care less what my title is, and I will just say things very bluntly. And so there's a lot of things about becoming a leader at that level. And having a team of that size, that is, wow, trial by fire. Someone could
Right.
have, there are so many management courses, but a lot of it you cannot learn without doing,
Right.
you know?
Well, and
Yeah.
and I think there's a little truth to, I just saw this meme the other day, and I think it's so true. And it said, um, Generation X, the silent generation that's secretly ruling the world. And I was like, because we like our generation was, we saw like the boomers, you know, getting a job, working there for, 30 years, retiring, and then sitting at home all day, right? And,
Mm.
like, but like our generation started breaking that mold, like we started, challenging status quo, like, if people say no, like watch me do it. And but we always want that hindsight, when it's coming back through. And I think that's where you kind of earn wisdom, that can't be taught, in a grad class, because it's something that you need to discover about like yourself and your personality, and ways that you do that. And it's just not, like there's maybe self-discovery courses, but no one can actually just like, they can tell you that, but it doesn't mean anything until you actually experience it, and then you pull it back. But I think there's a little bit of like generational stuff that has like undertones to, how we look and do some of those things. So I totally get it.
I
So
think that's really well said. I think you hit the nail on the head with that. It's like we can hear the facts, but you have to earn wisdom.
Mhm.
And and so by the time we figure a lot of these things out, I feel like, oh, if I could just let me just rewind, I'm going to do it again and I'm going to do it so much better. So
Right,
it's part of that growth pattern, though, right?
right.
And if we're not growing and learning, then those are the real questions you should be asking yourself. Like,
Right.
what did I take away from that?
Like what was my lesson that I need to, and now it's almost like the baton is passed to the next versions of ourselves. Like I've learned, like through, like, obviously I've had some incredible loss in my life, and like I've learned that we have seasons, like your swimsuit seasons, right? Like last season came and gone, and now it's time not necessarily to reinvent the wheel, but to like shed and, elevate in and grow into our next selves. So sometimes I feel that when we learn those lessons, it's almost our job to say, okay, I learned that lesson, so I'm not going to make that mistake again. Like, hopefully, I'm not going to. And I want to tell more people about it because even though like someone has to like go through it and earn the wisdom, if you can, if you can do that once to, to one person, it could be a defining moment in their lives. And you've had a lot of those. You've had, people that, have earned their wisdom and, kind of brought you in. And I think that, for anybody that's been on a journey with their career, there's probably people along the way that said something that was either hard or, challenged them in a way that they can take a step back and say, wow, thank you for that. There's almost like a sense of gratitude that goes towards that. And it helps kind of write that journey. So, okay, so 25 people, New York City, your life had to be just insane. Like you
Yeah.
were really busy at Target. Did you get less busy when you took on Victoria's Secret, New York City, 25 people, growing the pink brand? Like, come on, you had to be a little, it had a, you had a baby, like, well, she wasn't necessarily a baby anymore, but you had a
Oh,
child,
she was. I mean, well, she was a toddler at
toddler.
the time. Um, I feel like so much of it went by in just a blur. And it was a different kind of busy though, Now I wasn't just doing everything myself. Now I was learning how to really work with a team and really trying to lead as best as I could and trying to so it was different skill set and it was a lot of travel. We were in meetings in Ohio at least a couple times a month and we were very hands-on with our manufacturing base because it is vertical, meaning we used all the same factories and we would go there to do in-person fittings and we just were very we also would go to college visits and we had a lot of college reps and we would go to the dorms and to the sorority houses and we would go through their drawers and see what they were really wearing and what they liked. We would spend
You
a
were
lot of
doing that. So you were doing that to really understand your client, right? Like
yes,
you were
absolutely.
you were going there
And
to truly study like who you were designing for. That's
I
fascinating.
mean, we would take their drawers and dump them out on their beds and be like, tell me everything. Tell me what you like about this. What don't you like about this? What do you wear every day, even though it might be like not the cutest thing? And we would have them wear things and test them out. I also would do that with other brands that I've worked with. I would say, and since you were mentioning, working with brands, the most knowledge that I get as a designer is from my customers. And any job that I've had working for a brand that is successful, and in going forward, when I work as a consultant or for my own brands, I always try to lead customer centric because you will the biggest unlocks, the littlest thing somebody says to you might be the biggest unlock you have
Yeah,
for a product or a service. And it's amazing what people tell you that from an experience point of view that you just can't get to on your own. You can't always understand. It's sort of like not knowing what questions to ask
sure.
when someone says, "Why didn't you ask the question?"
You're like, I
You
didn't know
know.
I needed to ask the question at the time. But
Yeah, so I was very, very busy when I was there, but it was good busy and it was a great education in a lot of things. Both every job I've had has been, I feel really honored and grateful to have worked with so many incredible people. But it was definitely like being on a racetrack.
sure.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, so like let's fast forward to like kind of what you're doing today. So life brought you back to Wisconsin, and you've dabbled a little bit here and dabbled a little bit there with some different things. And so like what's in your cookhouse right now? Like whose drawers are you going through
I
today?
wish something was in my cookhouse right now. Somebody would come make dinner for us. So I took on, after Victoria's Secret, I did two more big corporate roles. Like you said, family and life brought me back to Wisconsin, and that little baby that grew up in New York is now a teenager, and we moved about 9 times in 10 years, and I really uh, she grew up in New York because things that probably some kids probably shouldn't learn at that age, but she learned a lot about the world. Um, but I will say, like, she didn't even always have recess. Her school was at 150% capacity. Um, it was an incredible education, great teachers, but we were kind of we were outgrowing the city in a lot of ways. And I'm really happy for her to be having the experience here that she's having. She is a full-blooded all-American cheerleader in this amazing high school program, and she just loves it.
That's
So
awesome.
going from being like the city kid to seeing her just thriving in this environment, I can't say enough about like the education that she's getting. So that fills my heart, and I get to really be around her a lot more because of not traveling every single week like I was before. So I was working remotely for a while on both either coasts, and decided that I wanted to take a step back from corporate world. It was just getting to be a lot of time away. And like I said, I really felt like I needed to be more present for
Yeah.
myself and my family, and just it was time to do that. So I have I started doing more consulting work, working with some different foundations, and doing one-off designs for people. My mother's, my maternal grandmother's, so great grandmother owned a dress and hat shop in Chicago,
Oh,
and I inherited a lot of her stuff when she passed away. So I have all this vintage, like feathers and fur and all these things. So I actually started making derby hats randomly, which it does sound like really far away from everything, but they are a lot like bras. They're very structured.
sure.
There's always all these elements of, they're kind of like they're pretty and
Yeah.
colorful, and they're like swimming bras. I like making things that are they're not as functional, I guess, in a sense,
Yeah.
but they are very structured. So I have been doing that for the last, my gosh, couple of years now. Did I lose you?
No, I got you.
Oh, okay. Sorry, something went funny on my screen. So Though, so I'm making those as one-offs, and also have worked with a few different charities that do, different things for racehorses and things like that, some of the foundations. And then I also have something else that is in the works right now, but it is confidential that I can't talk about too much,
That's
but
okay.
I would love to in the future when
Yeah,
things move a little further along.
that's so fun. I'm not surprised that you have something in your hopper cooking. I'm not surprised that your daughter is thriving because she had an amazing role model. I mean,
Aw.
because we do take those things and we bring them with us. And but the biggest thing that I heard from you today was like, don't take no for an answer. And it's woven into your story, just like the SPF is woven into the fabric.
Oh my goodness. Wow.
Wow,
You
right?
are, you are something on camera.
Yeah.
Well, I think so if you hear no, then it if it is for you a motivator, it's like how can you take that no and deliver success back to someone? That is I want to hear it like this is an opportunity. When I hear no, it's like you're missing this opportunity. Let's not
Right.
leave, don't leave this on the table.
Right.
So
Like,
yeah.
what are you doing? And and sometimes people misinterpret what no is. It might be
Mhm.
no might mean not right now. No might mean not like this. No, so I think the biggest thing is sometimes when people hear no, they see a big red stop sign and they take a completely different path instead of saying, okay, we're just stopping here, but we can keep plowing through and we're just gonna come back with something else. I know you said no, but what about this? No.
Right.
Well, like I thought about why do you say no? What don't you like? So like you build narratives around it. And I think that's a huge piece because, if you go back to your Target story and they told you that you would never make it into the design department and then you were just like, forget it, I'm just gonna go back and work at the jazz club, like your life would have been really, really different. So, the way that turned no into power and, unleashed, this little creative force of energy inside you that, just kept showing up is that's amazing. And, and people saw that in you. It just doesn't happen, like people around you, like you attracted, you were magnetic to that talent probably because you were working in something that you had like true passion in and you were not just like you were diving into it and giving it such attention and bringing so much life to that. And so people that's who people want on their team, and I'm not surprised that you've been as successful as you have been. And it's inspiring and it's amazing and it's so super cool. I actually think that it would be super fun if we like talked like quarterly or something and just like talked about like trends. I think trend talk would be, because like we hear about like all these like fun things, but like what's going on? Like what are you seeing? And what are some fun ways to even colors, like I can't believe how many like soft, feminine, like floral patterns are out right now. And I'm like, oh, like I don't have anything like this.
I would love to do that. I mean, I spend a lot of time on it, just with the background work that I do, and I do some personal shopping for people. And so I really spend an exorbitant amount of time looking at it. So anytime that you want to talk about that, I can
I think we could do it.
I love talking about it. And one other thing that you just said, not to dwell on the no thing too much, but it reminded me of one other thing I wanted to mention, or that you sparked me with. And I think what you said is really true and really powerful. But I also think that there's sometimes an element of you can't or I can't in no. And I think over the years, sort of that being the through line, it's true. And I also always want to approach leadership from that direction too. So if somebody that works with me or that I am a leader of has that no mentality, I really try to teach or lead from that direction as well. So if we have a problem or something that needs to get solved, I always ask them to come to me with a solution first, even though I might have to go out on their behalf. I really always want oh, somebody told me no, and so can you go deal with this? I really try to lead from what was your solution to no? Because I think that the word empowerment is not my favorite word. I think it gets a little diluted and overused, and uh, it really only gets sent out to people that are already disenfranchised. Like we don't need, please, don't put this little vest on me. I'm fine. I got this, But but I do think that giving people permission to push back appropriately or be solution based is empowering, for lack of a better word. It gives them permission to try. And I think permission to try is something that a lot of us need.
Yes,
Sometimes we need that push to feel like there's a way around. Let me go through this window because the door is locked, or whatever it takes. Like you can find your path forward.
100%,
Give yourself permission to deserve that. It
100%.
doesn't matter what someone tells you. So I really think that there's something in being, like you said, the no, like you said, it might be later, it might be a lot of things, but give yourself permission to find a way around it.
You know,
And
I had a leader once that I was in a chief marketing officer role. So, I reported directly to the president. And I had an issue. I don't even remember what the issue was, but I walked into his office and I was like, okay,
yeah,
high energy and this. And he sat back, with his arms crossed. He's like, okay, this is what we're gonna do. I'm gonna meet with you tomorrow at 2 o'clock. He goes, and we're gonna have this conversation again. But when you come back, I want you to come back to me with a solution for the problem. He goes, and going forward, don't ever come back in this office if you have a problem that you haven't thought about a solution for. And he's like, and here's why. Because I don't care if it's the wrong, it doesn't have to be the right solution. He's like, but this is how we're going to be problem solvers. He's like, we are solutionists. And I have taken that with me. So
yeah.
I 100% feeling what you're laying down there. So I get it. And
It's a gift. It's really a gift to have someone who encourages you to think that way.
right, it truly is. And I think too that's like how our brains are, I think that's how our brains then can move into like even creative mode when you have permission to not feel judged or to know that okay, I'm in like I can fail and I can be okay. It doesn't mean I'm like a total failure.
Yeah,
And I think it opens you up to do like amazing things. And there's a lot of psychology there with that.
I think so. It's in the what if, and it's, do you want to trudge through life or twirl? You just,
Twirl, that's so much more fun.
you know, there's going to be obstacles, obviously,
Right?
but
Go through. All right. So if someone wanted to reach out to you and like have a derby hat designed or personal shopping or ask questions or just like say that they really enjoyed this conversation as much as I did, where would they find you?
well, I'm on LinkedIn. That's probably the easiest place to find me or find me professionally. And then also, Facebook or social media, Instagram. You can find me on all of those places. And
Find me there.
yeah, and yeah, feel free to reach out. I always love to hear from everybody. And yeah, I
Just
always will respond.
yeah,
And
that's
it's
that's so fun. I'm so curious what you got under your sleeve. So that'll be fun to have a different chat at a different time on that. So
I think we'll really have fun with that chat. I think it's going to be really exciting, and I am so eager to talk about it. And it's really killing me that I can't say more today. But
I love it. I love
yeah,
it. And anticipation is like jumping out of your skin. It's
yes, I can see what the project right now from where I'm sitting, and it's driving me crazy.
is it like does it have anything to do with horses?
No, it doesn't. I will say that it's more design work.
Cool.
It's very personal to me and to our childhood even. And it is going to be a really big, exciting project that'll be launching this spring.
You're making a new line of fashion clothes for Cabbage Patch Kids. No?
That probably would hit so hard right now. It's just the right timing, right? Um,
Couture.
Tour, cabbage patch kids.
Cabbage couture.
I'm
Just
making fly girl outfits for w women of a certain age.
yay, that is so fabulous. All right, we better wrap this up because otherwise we're going to be on here till for like 5 more hours, and then it's like, oh, we've got other things going on. But Alicia, thank you so much. This was so much fun, and I appreciate your time and your story and your energy. And I've taken some things out of this conversation, and I hope others that are watching have done that too, because that's the purpose of this is to stop for a minute and think about what's going on in your life, hear stories from real people that have done real things, and say, you know what, can this spark me to maybe do something? So maybe someone just told you no, and now you can reframe that into power and go and just, make shit happen because that's it's up to us, right? Up to us to
It really is. Thanks so much for having me
yeah,
today, Carrie. I've really enjoyed this. It is always great to catch up with you, and I
absolutely.
really love the format of your interview. You're a great interviewer and great on camera. I really
Oh,
appreciate you.
you're sweet. You know what I'm thinking? I'm thinking we need to go to some thrift stores and we can do some like little social media stuff. And that would be so much fun to do with your perspective.
I would love to. We can wrap it into. Let's do that as our trend.
Our trend
One of
alert.
our trends, and how to find. You said you don't have any florals.
Yeah,
You know, guess what? We can put together a whole trend segment on how to find the newest trends at the thrift stores.
there you go. So what is it? Sustainable fashion.
Yeah, we didn't even talk about the sustainability piece, so we can focus on that too.
There you go. Like we're gonna encourage sustainable fashion trends. So okay, here we go. We're going right down another rabbit hole. I'm gonna
Ah!
stop this right now because this is where we would keep talking. But I again I appreciate it. This was amazing. And I think that people will probably see some more from us. So it'll be super fun. But thank you so much
Awesome.
for joining, and everyone, thanks for watching. And stay tuned for our next guest. Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.